Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it on to our children in the bloodstream. The only way they can inherit the freedom we have known is if we fight for it, protect it, defend it, and then hand it to them with the well-taught lessons of how they in their lifetime must do the same. And if you and I don't do this, then you and I may well spend our sunset years telling our children and our children's children what it once was like in America when men were free.
Welcome back to hour number 2 of episode 114 of Gun Freedom Radio, where we engage, we educate, and we inform. Well, we have been celebrating Father's Day today, and here on Gun Freedom Radio, we are always talking about the importance of legacy, and not only appreciating our forefathers, but also teaching and instilling their values into the next generation. We are that conduit and that bridge between the past and the future. And when you think of it, we are actually honoring our dads constantly with the things that we teach our children and our children's children. So I wanted us to just take a few moments and consider all the dads, soon-to-be dads, stepdads, father figures, granddads, and great-grandpas in our lives. If there is someone who you haven't connected with in a while, reconnect. Learn something new, because our dads, our fathers, and our forefathers always have something they are wanting to teach us. All we have to do is listen and learn each and every day, but most especially on Father's Day. Well, each of our guests today are dads, and our next guest is Dan Wos, author of Good Gun, Bad Guy, Behind the Lies of the Anti-Gun Radical, the book that destroys the anti-gun left and exposes all their lies and propaganda. And he recently published a second book, Destroying the Anti-Gun Narrative. And he is a dad. Welcome to the show, Dan.
Hey, Cheryl and Dan, thanks for having me. It's always great to be on your show.
Welcome to the show. Thank you.
Absolutely. So, you've been on both sides of this gun debate. When we've had you on before, we've talked about how for a while you were kind of buying into that whole, anti-gun left narrative. So how much has your journey been impacted by being a dad and having a young person in your life who will carry on whatever messages you convey to him into the next generation?
Well, yes, I was on the other side for a short time in my life, and I always say I was hanging with the wrong crowd, and it wasn't people dealing drugs, it wasn't people robbing banks, it was liberal anti-gunners. Mm-hmm. And so, but fortunately, I came to my senses, and I realized how important gun ownership is, and probably the biggest impact on my journey has been my family and my son, my wife. It's the reason that everything changed for me with respect to guns, because my job as a man, as a husband, as a father is to protect my family first and foremost before anything else. And there was a time in my life when I wasn't sure that I was able to do that. And so, I am a gun owner and have been now for a while. And that's, they're the most precious things in my life. It's my family. And that's really what it all comes down to. It's
right.
Taking care of your family, protecting your family.
Right. So Dan,
how has it impacted?
Oh, go ahead.
It's greatly impacted.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So how did you, did it happen overnight that you changed, or what did it take for you to get to the other side?
Well, yes and no. What happened was when I was a kid, I shot guns with my dad, so I knew guns. I had a foundation understanding how to use them, how to clean them, how to shoot them, how to use them safely. But like I said, I was hanging with the wrong crowd in my 20s and even into my early 30s, and I kind of went the other way, and I started to believe a lot of the propaganda, a lot of the lies and the tactics and strategies that the anti-gun side of the conversation used. And that's the stuff that I talk about in my book, because at one point it became so clear to me that I couldn't deny reality, and I had to be honest with myself and look at that propaganda and all that nonsense and say, wait a minute, this is wrong. Guns aren't bad. Guns are good. And people can do bad things. So I had a defining moment when my wife and we had a little run-in with a guy, and luckily we were okay. We made it out okay, unharmed. But it was just enough to make me realize how important it is and the responsibility I have to protect my wife. In that case, at that time it was my wife. So that's when everything changed. So in a way, I had the understanding from way back when I was a kid about guns, but in a way it did happen overnight. And sometimes it takes one of those profound moments, one of those impactful moments, to make you snap into a reality and see things more logically.
Right. We've seen that so many times where people that did come from the other side, that they had a terrible, tragic thing happen to them to get them to switch over. So it's fortunate that you didn't have to go through that. But did you bring anybody else with you?
Well, yeah, my wife is a supporter now, and she comes to the range occasionally. My son is a better shot than me. And so it's important that, and my son and my wife see responsible gun ownership every single day. So it's something that I brought into the family. We understand it, and we have a healthy respect for firearms. And we also have a healthy respect for our freedom to own firearms, which is a big thing that I want to pass on to my son, and I want to have him to pass on to future generations, because in this country we do have rights, and we can't forget that. And sometimes people will try to step on those rights, and I want my son to grow up and understand that if we don't defend those rights, they could be gone forever.
Absolutely. So as I mentioned in the lead-in, you've written 2 books now, both with the main title, Good Gun, Bad Guy. And so I see you going to these events where you're set up at your table and you're signing autographs on the books and selling your books at events and stuff. In real time, when you're in those settings, what kind of feedback do you get from people? Because when Dan said, who have you brought along with you, from maybe not seeing guns as tools of self-defense and life-giving tools, to now seeing them in that light, it made me think about the people that you interact with at these events. Are there people that have come back and said, you've allowed me to think of things in a different way, or are people angry? Why are you talking about guns? Like, what is your experience?
Yeah. Well, a bunch of different things, but the most important thing is that people always say, I read your book, I have to get the second one because you're saying exactly what I've been thinking, but I haven't been able to put it into words. And
that's awesome.
I'm thinking to myself, my God, I am actually having an impact on a lot of people.
Yes.
And I always hope that my message is clear and people take it in a good way, and most of them do. I mean, 99% of the people do, and they're very thankful that I wrote the books, because nobody's talking about this stuff the way I'm talking about it. They're talking about statistics, and we're talking about gun rights, and we're talking about laws and all that stuff, which is all very important, but nobody's talking about the mindset of the anti-gunners and the anti-second radicals and what they're trying to do and their strategies and tactics and all that stuff. Nobody's talking about that layer of the conversation. So, and it's funny because I'll go all over the country, and different parts of the country you get a little bit of a different reaction. I go down south and down Alabama and Arkansas and Tallahassee and some of these southern states, and they absolutely love it, and we have such a great time. The people are so wonderful. And then I come back up to my state of New York, in upstate New York, in Saratoga Springs, New York, and the mayor of Saratoga Springs unfriends me on Facebook.
Oh, wow!
So this is the response. Well, there's a
block the
there's
message.
A dramatic change.
Don't
Are you going to
let
live
any
through that?
Get in.
Are you going to be able to
What's
live? Are you going to be able to live through that?
The point I'm trying to make is that it's so childish
Yes.
that, and there's such a passion in other parts of the country for gun rights and for conservatism. There's such a passion, such a strong, patriotic, free will, way of life throughout this country. But there are pockets of very
Loud.
liberal,
Yes. Very
loud,
vocal.
and loud and anti-traditional American view. It's a very ugly point of view. I don't like it. I don't think it's good for our country. I don't think it's good for our future generations. But there are pockets of it, and it's hysterical when you see something like that. Something so childish coming from someone who, should be representing all the people.
Amen to that. Well, we've got to wrap up, but thank you so much for taking this time, and I want to wish you a happy Father's Day. And just as we go out, please tell folks how they can follow the work that you're doing, if you have another book in the works, and how they can buy the 2 books that you have already published.
Well, there are a couple chapters started from the next. I don't know when it will come out. I don't know what's going to happen with it, but I do have more things coming. I'm always writing articles on the Good Gun Bad Guy blog, so you can check that out. You can go to goodgunbadguy.net or goodgunbadguy.com, and that will be that'll have links to everything, Facebook and Twitter. You can search me on Facebook and Twitter. My name's Dan Wos, DanWos. And that's how I want to keep in touch with everybody. And so that's basically that, goodgunbadguy.net.
Fantastic. We'll definitely look that up. Can't wait to have you back on again already. Dan Wos, Good Gun, Bad Guy. Have a great day.
Thank you, Dan.
Thanks
and
so
after my rant, I'll teach you how to be a better shooter than your son. So listen on. Stay tuned, okay?
I could use all the help I can get.
Stay tuned.
Like
I
it.
got an
All right.
answer.
Have a great day. Bye, Dan.